What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Talk of the Tundra, your Green Bay Packers podcast. That is a proud partner of the Blue Wire family and the Eurostep Podcast Network. Refreshedly, excitedly, back-addedly, I am your host, Numac, and joining me, as he does every single episode, is my lovely co-host, Jordan Tresky. Jordan, how you doing, buddy?
Doing well, doing well, doing well. The Packers are back. The Pack are back. And my expectations higher? I don't know, but they're playing the Broncos, so maybe?
Jettisoning us right from the end of our talk with Paul Ruddle last week about expectations. Are they higher?
I
They shouldn't
I
be.
I loved our interview with Paul Bradle, and I took every word of his advice. But when it comes to Sunday, and I'm sitting down at 3:25, I want them Green Bay Packers to win.
I mean, who doesn't, right? That was our entire offseason, I guess, discourse about how this year is gravy. And then we started getting into wins and losses pretty
And
quickly
then
there.
maybe got spoiled.
Spoilt.
Spilt.
Maybe. Anywho's will be. We have to one last time go back to that Raiders game to hand out some cheeses, even though it was now a little over a week and a
10
half
days ago,
ago.
maybe?
Yeah, 10 days ago ish. So this is the last we'll speak of that game in an extended context. 3 cheeses to give out this week. The first of which is going to Rudy Ford. Had a wonderful game, 1 pass deflection, 9 total tackles, and 5 of them being solo. Just really good in coverage, regardless. Yeah, and the pick was getting there. But thank you for...
Sorry.
No, you're good.
I jumped the route.
That's right, just like Rudy. Um, but yeah, really good play from him. It's encouraging to see him make impact plays. I think we talked about this on a prior episode. I think it might have been the Lions episode where he had the pick as well. But he isn't playing like amazing safety defense. He's, but for all intents and purposes, an average safety or below average safety coverage wise. But he's making impact plays when it matters, and I think that's the least you can ask from him, as it pertains to being a serviceable safety in what is a pretty lackluster safety unit, or I guess secondary unit for the Packers. So for better or for worse, nice job, Rudy, last week, or now 10 days ago. You earn yourself a cheese.
Jeez.
Second cheese goes to Rasul Douglas, who I'm going to put out a hot take. Emerging himself. Okay, got to restart.
No,
I am putting a
think
hot take out there. He is emerging as the leader of the defense, which we will get into later. But I feel like I see more plays of impact and more, I guess, passion and direction from Rasul than I do Jair, if that makes sense. Like, Jair is very much the voice of the defense publicly, but Rasul is doing a whole lot of work to become the leader of the playmaking and the actual football of it all, if that makes sense.
I have thoughts on this, but I think we'll
Save it for later.
Yes.
Okay. 4 tackles for Rasul and 2 pass deflections. Just played well once again, mostly lining up against Devontae, holding Devontae for the most part to like 20 yards on 3 catches. There was the one catch he had for 21 yards that I think was on Preston, so that's obviously not Rasul's fault. So good job on Rasul in holding Devontae Adams and the rest of the defense for holding him in check. The last cheese goes to one Isaiah McDuffie, filling in for Devondre and Quay Walker this week. Led the team in tackles with 10 total, 6 of which being solo, and had 1 tackle for loss. Another instance of he did what he really was asked to do in a fill-in spot, and I think it's encouraging that he has that ability. Like, I think we saw in the preseason that if he gets prolonged run over the course of games, he just doesn't really have that ability to play at a level that we would need from Quay and Devondre to be a successful defense. But for a game here, and maybe for a game in the future, depending on how healthy they are coming out of the bye at linebacker, hopefully he can keep playing up to that level of just don't let anything huge happen on your watch.
Yeah, I mean, the second straight year that Devondre Campbell has missed multiple games and has been a little bit snake bitten in that way. Packers have had to depend on McDuffie to spell Campbell or if Quay's hurt, have more snaps and all that stuff. And it's not. I think he's doing more than a passable job. Obviously, expectations are a lot different when we're comparing it to a guy that was all pro a couple years ago or a second year stud that has really blossomed into probably maybe the most like the biggest linchpin to making this defense really work
Hmm.
because it sure has problems, but if you look at stats and stuff like that, like we'll get into, like this defense has been pretty good. Like I'm not saying it's could be a whole lot better. I think that's for certain. Um, as you are,
Did you look at Discord?
no,
There's a tweet that our good buddy Andrew Snyder sent us. Go listen to Make Time for This and Cruising for a Bruising. But it's a screenshot of the Saints and uh, Jaguars game. And it says Amazon Prime Vision broadcast is incredible because it can identify blitzers and also call the coach an idiot right before the snap. And Amazon Prime Vision broadcast has like stats on who the blitzer is on defense, but then
oh
it says
no,
Dennis Allen is hesitant to lean into analytics. Career optimal call rate is 30%. And it's the
oh,
only team under 36 since 2022. And I'm just like, oh boy, hopefully we don't play any of these games Thursday Night
I
Football
don't. Yeah, I
again.
think all the Thursday games are done except for
Yeah, for
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving. Phew. Thank
Yeah.
God. I don't want to be depressed by what those Joe Barry analytics are. Sorry, that was worth mentioning because it's obviously in reference to Joe Barry and Company. So, any who's will be. Good job for Isaiah McDuffie, and yeah, like you said, Quay is quite important to this defense. So hopefully he can come back healthier this week, as he is. I guess we'll get into it in like 2 minutes, nearing towards healthy. So
Yeah.
all good from those three, and definitely deserving. News and notes from the bye week. You and I talked pre-pod that not a lot happened in terms of just like general Packers news. It was everything just like practice squad stuff. But other than that, just nothing happened. It was
I mean, granted, it is the bye week and stuff like that. Like, but you think that I think even in past years, maybe last year, it was like considering the point in the season, it felt like there was something.
brewing.
Yeah, and especially at that point because it was like the season was teetering on this like very small mathematical figure of like, are you playoff eligible or
Yeah.
playoff eligible? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, this year was like, yeah, everybody leave. Get away from football for a while. We'll reconvene the week after.
Alas. Um, but the news that we do need to talk about, James Robinson was signed to the practice squad. They cut Patrick Taylor after they had to sign him to an NFL deal after his third call up against the Raiders. Ultimately, like I said, end up cutting him. I guess. What are your feelings on cutting Patrick Taylor? I think I have a pretty predictable opinion, but I'm curious as to what was your take on hearing that news post Raiders game.
I think the whole running back situation has been really tough to figure out because Table Patrick Taylor. I had another word in my head that was going to go further in my point, but then clearly leapfrog to that word. Anyway, Patrick Taylor was a serviceable um, player for them when we were like penciling him in as a special teams player and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And obviously, they make the final 53. He had to be on the practice squad for the first three games or three or four. Um, you know, from that perspective, and then we have to lead on Patrick Taylor to be the second running back because Aaron Jones is hurt. He's not available. So, yeah, I don't think that's necessarily the fact that we're expecting Patrick Taylor to make plays or just give some sort of lift because, as we have covered extensively, the running game is just not the same without Aaron Jones. And there's a lot of reasons why, and it's why he's the best player of the Packers or most valuable player of the Packers
Hmm.
by a large margin.
Right.
So you have that. I didn't really see the problem with them moving on from him, especially when, we compared it to like an option in baseball. Once you run through those options or a two-way player in basketball, it's not necessarily the same thing, but it's like, yeah, we kind of wrung out as much as we could with you. And it's a very transactional way to look at it, but I think that's ultimately where we're at when we're talking about a guy, even though he had been in the system for such a long time. It's like, does he really offer anything discernibly different than what they have existing in their running back room? And I would say no.
I also think that coming from a purely football standpoint, if you're on the practice squad, like a lot of things that you are involved with when it comes to roster construction are just going to be transactional, as unfortunate as it is. Like,
Yeah.
he doesn't really have a place to make a case besides his play as to why they should keep him if he isn't playing up to par. Like, if he's not being a true asset to the Packers, then with hopefully Aaron Jones getting healthy, it doesn't make sense to keep him on the roster and keep four running backs if they can add value elsewhere and then do what they did, which is sign another running back to then promote to the full roster should they need a backup.
Which they kind of showed their cards when they had James Robinson come in for a visit a couple weeks prior. And we're all looking at it as like, oh, Aaron Jones is hurt. That might be more towards the severity of him. But really, it was more of like, okay, if we run out of games, then we can elevate Taylor. And it comes down to, do we want him on the roster? When you already made the decision initially to not have him on the roster, it's like, well, we're going to go on with someone else kind of thing.
Right. Exactly. So, ultimately, I'm not too sad about it. I think he was a good special teams player, but I think he was one of the more maddening players to have, like, because he would show flashes of, like, this is what sort of runner he could be. And then it just never materialized, even over the course of, like, even one full game. It just never came to be.
And like the thing about it, he's playing critical downs.
Yeah.
He's playing critical snaps. We saw that in the Saints game where I mean he's split out wide and he probably should have had the ball to begin with, and maybe that just speaks to what kind of caliber of player he is and
Right.
whatever. But like it's not like they had to use Patrick Taylor in big moments,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes it worked. Most of the time, it did not. So it's like, well, where do you go from there? That's when James Robbins comes in. Now, the other variable, which we did not discuss pre-pod, but there were some very interesting comments about Emmanuel Wilson from Matt LaFleur the other day. Did you see them?
I did not see them. This is news to me.
I can bring up a quote.
Please.
Um, Obviously, Emmanuel Wilson has not really played much of a role. I believe his snaps are very, very small,
Yeah, it's
if
not a
anything.
lot. He has
He
some. It's like
has
six.
he has eight and five carries.
Yeah, it's not. It's not a lot.
Matt LaFleur was asked about this Wednesday, and here's his kind of overall assessment of where Wilson is right now. I just think there's a learning curve for every young player in this league, and you just got to prove it through practice. He's a talented guy, no question about it. But it's just that trust that he can go out there no matter what the defense gives us, that he's going to be able to go out there and execute. Because it's not just running him the football, it's protections, it's all that. I think he's progressing nicely and will give him more opportunities throughout practice in order for him to go out there and do it in a game.
Sounds like he's talking about an undrafted rookie free agent.
From a Division II school, I believe.
Yeah, sounds like he's saying, yeah, he can run the ball, but he has a lot of work to do when it comes to run blocking and picking up blitzes or I'm sorry, pass blocking and picking up blitzes and things that way. That I think that frankly makes sense, and I think that it speaks to his talent as a running back, like as a rusher, that they were willing to keep him on the 53-man roster versus putting him on the practice squad in fear of him getting picked up by somebody else. Like I think that might be the coach or the coaching staff's sort of um, vote of confidence in Emmanuel Wilson that say, hey, like you're safe, but you have to keep showing progress and that you're actually progressing towards being a good third down back like Patrick Taylor might have been last year or anything like that to become a good special teamer, to kind of refine his game to be more of an impact player in more ways than just being a rusher.
I definitely agree with that. I think it's the whole package. It's doing the things. I mean, we see the whole thing with going from a guy like Aaron Jones, who can virtually do anything.
Mm-hmm.
AJ Dillon, who has his faults, is more of a limited running back. But hey, I do trust him to pick up blitz protections, any stuff like that, to kind of at least protect the quarterback.
You had me hanging on your words when you were saying I
That's
trust him to pick up, and I went first downs.
3 yards.
First downs was not the answer I had.
No, no, no. You would be correct. I just think it because of the Packers' overall struggles and the fact that Aaron Jones has, again, he's largely been hurt the entire year. It just kind of makes the Emmanuel Wilson situation a little bit more maddening. But again, it's big picture. Could there I reading those quotes Wednesday and then kind of thinking more about it today is like, is there room for more usage for him, even with those things in mind? I would say there is, just because it's like his team just doesn't have any juice running the ball.
Yeah.
And granted, they're without their best player. I know I have to keep using that caveat, but like they're just a totally different team. And the fact that we were saying like, hey, the Raiders game was good to see AJ Dillon do more what we expected, but it's still not like great enough. They still lost. It's
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like it. I don't know. I think that's where it's a small little story in the grand scheme of things. There are a lot more pressing developments that really shape how the Packers look now for the rest of the season, especially with no bye week now, and the rest of the coming years and stuff like that. But like a guy like Emmanuel Wilson, who we're like, okay, this is the preseason darling. This guy really has some talent.
Mm-hmm.
He could do all these different things. It's more of like, I just also my point is I do think there is a use for Emmanuel Wilson when there is very little else to that is being or that is showing itself that hey, the Packers are a productive run offense, because they're not right now.
Right, exactly. Like, I think, and part of what Matt LaFleur's quote was, is that he just needs to improve as a rusher. And I think part of that is understanding a lot more of the schematic stuff that goes into becoming a great, or I guess even a good rushing back, or running back in the NFL. Most of that being like recognizing coverages, recognizing when that hole that was supposed to be there isn't there, and you have to bounce it outside or do something like that. I think that is like the biggest thing, and hopefully, like LaFleur said, is that he can improve on that in practice and get his chances. Maybe when Aaron Jones is out some more, or AJ Dillon loses his opportunity, or somewhere along those lines, is I think where his opportunities may lie. But it might just be the case of the longer the season goes, maybe we start seeing a little trickle in of Emmanuel Wilson here and there to bust off a play or just make a good impact play in the snaps he's allotted. So, with all that being said, we did a lot of Patrick Taylor on that. James Robinson was signed to the practice squad. Former Jacksonville Jaguar, former, I believe,
That
New York Jet, and I think he played for one other team as well.
Patriots
Yep, the Patriots. I'm trying to pull up his PFF.
was with the Giants this preseason, then got cut.
Yeah, he didn't play any games for the Patriots, but he was with the Jaguars for 2 years. Had a really strong rookie season with the Jaguars, 1,000 yards rushing to go with 344 yards passing, and then just dwindled in his production the rest of his career thus far.
Achilles, I believe he had an Achilles tendon tear.
Did he?
Yes, I had forgotten about that.
I totally forgot about that. I don't remember that at all. Alas.
Yeah.
700 and looks like 50 yards ish in his sophomore season with the Jaguars, and then from there, yeah, 2020 December 27th, 2021, he was placed on IR. So end of the year, his sophomore year, which is unfortunate because he was playing pretty well. So it might just be a case of his body not catching up to him, his ability after injury. But who's to see? He was talented back his rookie season. If he can find some juice and retool his game a little bit, it might be a good signing. And I think a more valuable signing than Patrick Taylor was just when it comes to the rushing attack of it all. That makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, this is all about just having utility to the Packers. And
Yeah.
if you're a productive rusher, and granted, it's very clear James Robinson has not been the same athlete since his Achilles tendon tear. That's a big thing to keep in mind. But, there are worse options to look out or to look at right now. And while there are guys like Leonard Fournette, who I know believe is going to visit the Bills, and then that got scrapped or whatever. There were other options out there too that the Packers looked at, like Daryl Henderson.
Yep.
And
Former
then he got
former Rams running back and then proceeded to become a Rams running back.
all over again. But yeah, I think they already looked at Robinson. They're obviously going to look at him a lot more now.
Right.
And we'll just see if whether he gets elevated, what he can do. It's obviously going to be very contingent on what happens with Aaron Jones, but we'll see.
For what it's worth, James Robinson had a pretty good pass blocking rate in his snaps last year with the Jets and the Jaguars. So if that's what they want to do, then so be it. So he was pretty good last year. Wasn't so good his rookie and sophomore year, which again to be understood. He's a rookie and a sophomore, but yeah, bunch of grades in the 70s on 1, 2, 3, 4 pass blocking snaps per game ish. So, but that's good if that's what he's going to be in there for. Like he's not going to be in there every third down pass blocking. That'll be somebody else, probably AJ Dillon of the matter if Aaron Jones is healthy. But if that's what they need when Aaron Jones isn't healthy, then that's good. I'm fine with that. Hopefully he can be of use.
Mm-hmm.
And
Absolutely.
then Packers also added their rookie Anthony Johnson to their practice squad in place of Keandre Thomas, who was released. So, the only other news and notes that we have is a quote from Russell Douglas, which I think will kind of springboard us into the Broncos talk. But I think will also springboard us just into the defense. But actually, you know what? Let's do the preview first and then go back to the quote. So, anyways, Packers, Broncos preview. Met in the playoffs in Super Bowl. You're going to have to help me here.
32. I remember that. I believe, 5.
I was alive, not cognizant. But yeah, Super Bowl 32, obviously losing to John Elway and crew, Terrell Davis, as well as, what's his name, Shannon Sharp. All of them.
Shannon Sharp, Ed McCaffrey, Rod Smith, Steve Atwater. Sorry, he was the safety for the Broncos.
Yep.
Big hard hitter. Came up big against Favre because, the gunslinger threw too many bullets.
The Packers are 7-6-1 against those Broncos and 1-2 at Mile High Stadium. Packers 2-3 entering the week. Obviously, Broncos are much
trash.
Sure, at 1-5. And their lone win came against the Bears in Week 4, a comeback win, which was part of the Bears' big downfall. A lot of fans were upset at that loss, which you can't blame them.
No.
It was bad. Bad news Bears. Injury report for the Packers. Devondre Campbell was a DNP, and Matt LaFleur said that he is not or is doubtful to play on Sunday. Limited was Jair with a back injury that cropped up again, which is, I think, frustrating to say the least. He was not on the injury report on Wednesday, but then was a new injury report designation on Thursday. So, alas, the bye week did not help Jair get healthy. Zane Anderson with a hamstring, EJ with a knee, Aaron Jones with his hamstring, Darnell Savage with a calf, Eric Stokes with his foot, Quay Walker with his knee, and Devontae Wyatt with his knee. I think the only suspect ones of in danger of not playing in that are Jair, Aaron Jones, and I think Eric Stokes is still waiting to come back from the PUP. So he might get elevated for this game. Who's to say? It's Thursday at 9:18. We don't have that information yet. But he was doing practices in the video I saw today, or in the videos. He was practicing in the videos I saw today, doing cuts
Yeah.
and practicing like a cornerback should. So he could, given their opponent. I don't know if they'll bring him up this week, but we shall see. Aaron Jones gave some context as to why he missed the Raiders game. He said that he overstretched his hamstring, which is why he was unavailable. So I feel like that's not a him issue. I feel like that is an entirely strength and conditioning issue, which I feel like I can get on a soapbox for a very long time about the Packers strength and conditioning coaches for the past decade and a half.
Yes. Yeah. My
Well,
thoughts when I
like
first
not
saw it.
everything lingers with the Packers. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, 100%.
Like
Yes.
they everything lingers and nothing is ever injury, time off, recovering, healed, done. Whether it's a hamstring, a quad, a back, anything. I just feel like their strength and conditioning isn't good.
No, and I remember one of the things that when old buddy Aaron Rodgers was, I can't remember what time this was, but he was basically Rage Against the Machine. What part that was, I don't know, maybe like 87 out of 1,500 times that he Rage Against the Machine. But I remember him talking about like the Packers medical staff and the strength and conditioning coaches and just how notoriously conservative that they have always been. So when you have, yes, muscle injuries in play, I understand that it's very fickle, all this stuff. I just think the fact that they have gone from, okay, we're going to keep Aaron Jones out, be really conservative about it, and then it's like, okay, we're going to ramp it up, let's go time. And they've almost done more things to kind of put him in harm's way, or at least enough to keep him out at least one game.
Yep.
Now the fact that we are coming out of the bye week, so you have extra time to rest, rehabilitate, do all the fun stuff that you have to do when doing something like this. They're just not in position to really kind of nip this in the bud.
Yeah.
Because it lingers on with Aaron Jones this year. It was Christian Watson
Last year with his hip,
last year and
his
a little
hamstring.
bit this year. Yeah, like it just kind of happens, and
Yeah.
it's frustrating.
They're notoriously conservative without being efficient in actually treating the injuries. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like
There's enough evidence that it doesn't matter what player at this point
yeah.
or what the severity of the.
Yep.
It just there's at least a couple of these cases every year.
Yep. It was like I said, it's Christian Watson last year, it's Aaron Jones this year, and now it might be Jair this year. Like Aaron Jones looked like he was in good spirits post or during the Bears game when he was getting stretched out on the sideline. Ultimately is now out for his, I'm gonna just call it, fourth straight game. He didn't really play in the Lions game. I'm not gonna say he played that game. And if he wasn't ready to go for the Lions game, why even suit him up? You know, like why
Yeah.
suit him up and then have the long break and then, however it happened, overstretching his hamstring so he couldn't go against the Raiders. Like it's just, I don't want to call it malpractice because it has to do with like actual injuries in the body. Calling it malpractice is a bit a stone too far. But it's just not. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all that they would suit him up for the Lions game and then from there stretch him out to where he can't play against the Raiders. If he played against the Lions, he should have played against the Raiders, whether the capacity was the same or not. But alas, it wasn't. So that's too much on the Packers strength and conditioning coaches. It's just annoying. That's all it is. So hopefully
Yeah.
Aaron Jones can go. Hopefully Jair can go, and that his back didn't get tweaked enough for him to miss this game. Same thing with the rest of them, including Quay. So I know if Devondre's out, that's probably given, but hopefully Quay is trending towards playing this week. For the Broncos, DMPs was Greg Dulcich, their tight end. He has a hamstring and has missed some time this season already with that. Limited was Justin Simmons. I think he's their linebacker, isn't he, or D lineman?
Safety.
Safety. My apologies.
Think you're thinking of Isaiah
Yep.
Simmons.
Yep. Who plays for the Titans? Maybe.
That's Jeffrey Simmons.
There's too many names, Jordan. There's too many names. Everyone should have a unique name. This is my now new soapbox. Anyways, my apologies. Limited in participation was Justin Simmons with a hip. Full participants were Baron Browning, outside linebacker, Lloyd Cushenberry, the third with a quad. Strong name alert. Strong name alert. DJ Jones with a knee and a Kareem Jackson with a neck injury. So all those guys playing just fine. Kareem Jackson was upgraded to a full participant for Thursday's practice. So, with all that being said, let's get into the analysis of it all. Let's start with Razul and the secondary and the defense of it all. The quote from I saw you punch me. The quote from Razul this week was, quote, I mean, we haven't won in a month. Shit. We ain't win since the 24th or something like that of September. What's today? The 20th? That's a month. You know what I mean? So we haven't felt a victory in a while, and I'm tired of coming in here and everybody's sad. Like, I think it's probably palpable, the attitude that's around this team right now, given that they're facing some injuries. They got embarrassed in Las Vegas. They should have won that game.
It's a young team.
It's a young team. They don't have a whole lot of veterans outside of Razul, Jair, Aaron Jones, and I guess Kenny Clark to really lift that team up. Like that's a lot of burden to bear for four guys to lift up the spirits of 63 or 59 other-ish players. And I think getting a win for this team would obviously, like I said, lift up their spirits and show the rest of the young guys that losing streaks happen, but you can bounce back. But you need to be able to do that against the good teams when it's there. Like if they were to go out against like the 49ers or the Eagles or the Chiefs and get throttled, that sucks, right? That sucks to get throttled. But I think there's a point to that where it's easier to swallow the idea of, okay, they're just a better team. They were all playoff teams. They went to the Super Bowl. One of them won that. Like, it's understandable that can happen. When you lose to the Lions, a division rival, in the way that they did, got embarrassed on national television, and then they go out and lay a stinker of an egg on offense on national television against a team they probably believe they should have beat, it's understandable that you can kind of hang your head a little bit and just feel bad for yourself. And I think that's where Razul is coming from, is that, hey, we haven't had anything to cheer about in this locker room for a month now. This is an important week for us to really go to Denver and kick some ass, frankly. Like, this is a ample opportunity to get everybody back on track, have really good games, and reset for the rest of the season.
I'm glad that we kept this for this portion of the pod, because I do agree with you. I think Razul is becoming the emotional leader that they kind of need to rally the troops, especially when it's a young team. We have to emphasize that a lot, because they just don't know. They don't know winning. They sure as hell don't want to experience losing, because when you're a college guy and you progress through high school to college, you're playing at the best programs in the country, and that means that you're playing for teams that go 11-1 or whatever. They're going far in the playoff system,
right,
or whatever. Like Quay Walker
and Devontae, Devontae, like any of the guys that were playing for premier teams. Even like the D1 teams, the Power 5 teams.
They probably have lost more games with the Packers already than they had with Georgia.
Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%.
Yeah. So when you experience stuff like this, that's when things kind of you start to make mistakes. Things pile up.
Right.
It's just a compound fact of everything. That's why I think Razul is very necessary in this department, just because they just need someone that has been there, comes with veteran experience, of course, has played with a lot of teams, so he's been in a lot of different locker rooms and can assess what guys need to hear what and when,
Hmm.
rather than just being like, hey, this sucks. Let's do what we used to do, kind of thing like that.
Right.
I think Jair is a very different leader in that he's a very irrational confidence kind of guy.
Hmm.
In that, I mean, his quotes after the Raiders game were very necessary because it
Yeah.
was like, but it was also not realistic.
Yeah. I think Jair is the iron fist to Razul's velvet glove.
Yeah,
Like, I
I think
think
that's
Jair is not afraid to tell it how it is and say, hey, defense has got to play better to pick up the offense because the offense is young and is going to have problems from
yeah,
time to time because they are so young. And I think that might be a little harder to hear as a rookie and as a young offense coming from the vocal leader of your defense, as opposed to Razul, who is, like I said, emerging as the leader on the field as well as the emotional leader when it comes to helping out Darnell Savage and Keyshawn Nixon and Rudy Ford when it comes to coverages and things like that. I think he's
yeah,
he's taking that role and running with it. And so hopefully as the season progresses, those guys start to listen to him more. If they, I'm sure they do already, but take it all in stride and start to pick it up as a defensive unit across the board. Not that they're playing poorly, like we just talked about how Rudy Ford got a cheese for his play last week, keeping the Raiders to 17 points, not himself obviously, but the defense in general. But if they can become a stout defense where that is the standard from week to week, where you're not giving up 34 points and getting throttled in the first half against the Lions, then that'll be good. Like that's a really good defense and what we thought this defense could be. Sans Joel Berry kind of thing. Like I don't,
yeah.
and that's not to say Joel Berry is the source of all their problems and everything else. We talked about that last week with Paul Bradle, but the point being, Razul has really stepped it up in that part of his overall football player persona.
Yeah, agreed.
So, with that being said, they're going to need the defense to play as good as they did against the Raiders, an equally bad offense, in my opinion, as the Broncos, to have a chance to win this week. Like they need to keep the score low, like they did last week, because hopefully the Packers can score more than 13 points against this Broncos defense, which has allowed the most points in the NFL, which isn't helped by the fact that they let up 70 against the Dolphins in week 3, but they have the fourth worst point differential at negative 71.
Which is kind of shocking.
That
That is
it's
literally I mean, that is they lost 50 or I think it was 70-20.
yeah,
So 50
70 to
points
71
of that game
is
is
yeah,
that differential, and they're still fourth worst. So it's like I think it's the Panthers, um,
the Bears probably.
Panthers, Bears. Who's the other team? Panthers, Bears, Giants. Giants
Oof,
just getting
that
slaughtered.
that tracks.
Yeah. So
um,
yeah, the Broncos are just not good. Broncos are not good. They have the most like noteworthy things that have happened with them the last. I mean, basically since letting up 70 points, is that they have cut their big free agent signing from last offseason,
yeah,
Randy Gregory.
hmm
They cut their big free agent signing from this offseason, Frank Clark. Or I think was that last year? No, that was this
no,
year
that was this
too.
year,
And
which isn't encouraging, given that they're leading the league in how often they let opponents score.
yeah,
Like 53% of their defensive drives end with the opponent scoring a field goal or a touchdown. Like,
so 1 out of 2.
right. There's something to be said about players not plays on the defense. And Randy Gregory is fine. He's not what he used to be, but Frank Clark is still that guy.
Yeah.
Like, he's still really good. And I guess I just don't know what the point is in cutting him, frankly. Like, I understand the Randy Gregory move, but I don't understand the Frank Clark move, frankly.
I truly have not understood a thing that the Broncos have done. I mean, this is also a team that has not made the playoffs since they won Super Bowl 50 against the Panthers.
Uh huh.
It's been a precipitous drop in how this team has wandered through that post Super Bowl 50 hangover. And it's
Mm-hmm.
been talking about a team that went all in on Russell Wilson, that handed out a $20 million contract a year for Sean Payton. Like they're putting in significant investment at least in these big. Sorry for Cleveland, my notes while you do a point, but like they're making these big money moves for at least big name players. It does not necessarily mean that they are winning football games, which
No,
is the whole point of why they exist in the first place.
they're names, not players. Like
Yeah.
the Russell Wilson trade before they played games was a good move. Like, how are they supposed to know that it really was a lot of Pete Carroll and not Russell Wilson hiding some detriments of Wilson's game at that point? Like, that's hard to know without being in the room, in the coaching staff on the Seahawks, for those games and for those seasons. But I think it was a significant misstep hiring Sean Payton. Like, I'm not sure if you keep Nathaniel Hackett one way or the other, but I think
Which they had not. They moved on from him before that.
right. That's what I'm saying. Is like,
Yeah.
do you keep Nathaniel Hackett and just ride out a bad year and see if like I think fire a coach after year one's always a mistake regardless. Like, I just think it's a mistake because then you get into this situation where you hire a new head coach and you still suck. Like, you just are handing out money to coaches when the problem is probably the players. And that's not to say that Nathaniel Hackett is this prolific offensive mind that should have been kept around in the first place. I think he's doing fine in New York right now, given their situation. They're winning games. They're competitive in a lot of these games. Like, they almost beat the Cowboys, if I'm not mistaken. I think that was a close game, wasn't it? Or am I way off base? I feel like that was a close game. 30-10. I was wrong. 20-14. They beat the Eagles. 31-21. They beat the Broncos. They lost to the Chiefs by 3. They lost to the Patriots by 5. They beat the Bills like in the first week. Like, they're not scoring a
Wait,
whole lot
wait,
of points.
what?
What's your deal?
What schedule are you looking at?
The Jets.
Oh, I think you're talking about the Broncos.
No, I'm talking about Nathaniel Hackett's ability as a coach. They're 3-3.
Yes. Yes.
And so my point being is that the Jets defense is really good. That's their calling card right now. But they're still putting up points against some premier defenses like the Chiefs. Like, they only put 10 points against the Cowboys, but then 20 against the Eagles. Like, they're kind of like the Packers offensive right now, where they're not doing super great, but they're finding ways to win games
They at least have an elite defensive unit that they can be like, hey,
that they can go back
if
on.
if we get to this, put it out in yardstick. If we get to this number,
Right.
we will win a football game.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep.
the problem with the Broncos is that literally their defense is not great at all. The Dolphins game obviously threw a lot of things out of whack, but it just kind of hammered home just how significantly broken this team is.
Yeah.
And like a couple weeks ago, it's I feel like this has happened the last 3 years. Basically, since they drafted Jerry Jeudy, it's that they have to go out and be like, well, a lot of teams are calling around for Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton. Basically, they're skill players.
The Packers did last year on Jerry Jeudy.
Yes. Javonte Williams, a very promising running back, gets hurt. So it's like, what do we do? I think they got Melvin Gordon or something like that.
He is back, though. Javonte Williams is.
He's back now.
Yeah,
yes.
he got hurt for a game, came back last week.
Even promising, developmental pieces to kind of get them out of this rut. Something has happened where it's like, okay, we're just stuck in first gear. I'm just like, we're not even able to get out of everything that we've been able to get out of.
It's the coaching staff. Like, they have talented players, and they just don't have the coaches to do it. Like, Javonte Williams, like you said, is a good player. Jerry Jeudy is a good player. Cortland Sutton is a good player. Frank Clark is a good player. Russell Wilson, he's not I don't think he's as bad as he's playing right now. Like I think a lot of it falls on his shoulders. I don't know if like it's all Russell Wilson. That's a lot to put on a guy to talk about a team
I
that
think
was
last year
so
for
bad last year.
sure. I think last year for sure because they were the opposite of the Vikings where they had lost a lot of one score games and
Right.
you know what I mean? Like I think that's part of where your point about Nathaniel Hackett, who made a lot of god awful coaching decisions.
Right.
Let's be clear, but I think the pressure of which trying to win now, especially after making that move for Russell Wilson, sealed his fate. You can't lose in the ways that they had done all year long. That they
Right.
basically just said, I think it was like week 13, that like, hey, yeah, you're done. We don't need you anymore.
Right. But
And
same thing like it was last year. The Broncos are losing close games. They lost by 1 to the
they
Raiders. They lost by 2 to the Commanders. Like
well,
besides the
not
Dolphins.
even let's pause on the Commanders game. I was watching this. They threw a Hail Mary at the end of the game. The Commanders were up like it was convincingly up. They threw a Hail Mary
Oh,
that bounced off like 5 yards into the end zone. Clearly, I forget who caught it.
Brandon Johnson.
Yes. They had to tie the game,
They had a 2-point conversion to tie the game,
and they missed it.
and they missed it.
So it's stuff like that where you can get beat up by 50 points, or you get all the way down the field, score a touchdown, and when it comes time to putting it home with the 2-point conversion, you're just like way off base.
Right. And like they came back against the Bears. Like this team has talent, and I think like we're getting a little bit away from the Packers of it all. But it's just they have talent, and I think that they just don't have the coaching staff that really execute it well. That's why I think the Sean Payton hire was such a bad hire. I think football's passed him by. He was doing analysis, I believe, with Drew Brees on Sunday Night Football, whatever he was
Yeah,
doing.
it was on Fox. He had a
Yes, it was
movie
on
made
Fox.
up. He had a movie made up about him that starred Kevin James.
Yeah, you love that fact. You sure
I
do.
do.
But that is all to say. getting back to the point of the Broncos defense being not up to par. It is now on the Packers offense to showcase the flaws in this defense and have that good week. Like the Packers 21st in points scored, 113 so far. That seems like such a low number because it probably is.
It's low and it's inflated by the Quay touchdown too in week 1.
Yeah. Like that's not good. But they're only averaging 19 points from weeks 2 to 5. Like that's not good. Like I think I've predicted more than 19 points and wins every single game. Like it's not good. So I guess my question is can Aaron Jones, if he's healthy, propel this team to being somewhat effective? But if he's not healthy, I think he can do that, by the way. That was kind of a rhetorical question. But I think if he's not healthy, we have to see what adjustments were made in the bye week to come out of the bye week with something new to show this Broncos defense and to really run away with this game. Because, like I mentioned earlier, they are allowing a score every other drive, essentially. And the Packers need to take advantage of that.
I'm going to basically just rip this out from Tom Silverstein of the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, Green Bay Press Gazette, whatever.
Go for it.
Probably preeminent Packers writer that there is out there. Packers are 38-8 in the regular season when Aaron Jones rushes for 50 or more yards. They are 47-19 when he has 10 or more carries. They are 12-15 when he has fewer than 10 carries. They are 52-23 when he has 10 or more touches. They are 7-11 when he has fewer than 10 touches. They are 5-9-1 when he hasn't played, and they are 59-59 and 34 when he has played.
It's incredible. It's incredible. Like, I don't think it's ever been as, excuse me, I don't think it's ever been as laid out and clear in a stat as to how important a player is to a team. Like, he just,
On quarterback edition, too.
Right, non-quarterback edition, but I think it's just obvious. It's just obvious that Aaron Jones is the motor to what the Matt LaFleur offense is essentially, and that's why it makes it so maddening when they don't incorporate him into stuff. And it sucks that he's hurt, and that's kind of where we're at right now. But god damn, man, let's just get him the ball, get him healthy, and get him the ball.
Yeah, that's simple.
Um, with all that being said, getting the run game back on track is the most important thing. Aaron Jones needs to be back for that. They've allowed, over the Broncos have allowed over 1,000 yards rushing through 6 games. 350 of that is from the Miami game, but 700 yards through 6 weeks, or through 5 weeks,
Five.
if you're not
Yeah.
counting the Miami game, still over 100 yards a game. Like, I don't remember the last time the Packers had a 100-yard rusher. I think it was Aaron Jones last year when he had 150 or something, or 120. But I'd love to see an Aaron Jones 100-yard rushing game. I'd love to see an AJ Dillon 100-yard rushing game. Like, I think AJ Dillon has it in them if he can get going against this porous Broncos rush defense. Like, it's again, it's the Raiders game all over again. The Raiders had a porous, or I'm sorry, a poor rushing offense, and the Packers have a poor rushing defense. It's flip
Yeah.
flopped now this year, or this game. The Broncos have a worse rushing defense, and the Packers have a slightly better, probably equal to rushing offense of the Raiders. And we saw the Raiders not be able to take advantage of that. Packers held them within check for the most part. Can the Packers now do what the Raiders couldn't and really pound the ball against this Broncos defense? Like, I think if Aaron Jones plays, this should be a run first game because they allow so much rushing yards in the first place. They have an explosive player in Aaron Jones, and maybe they make some gadget plays in there with Jaden Reed on like jet sweeps or something like that. But I think that's what my hope is for this game, is that they have a 100-yard rusher or even a 100 yards rushing total. Frankly, that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And that they mix in easy passes for Jordan Love, because I think Jordan Love had said this week that the Raiders game left him with a sour taste in his mouth. He said there was an awful taste in his mouth after that showing from him with 3 interceptions and just not a good game for the offense in general. And so they need to expect more. I shouldn't say expect more. They need to see more from AJ Dillon and maybe Emmanuel Wilson and maybe James Robinson if Aaron Jones isn't playing, which again, knock on every single piece of hardwood you can that he does. But that's my ask. A solid rushing game to go with in rhythm passes for Jordan Love. I think we can wait for development in the pocket passer part of his game in lieu of getting him some actual completions. And as much as it is to annoyingly talk about it, bump that completion percentage up on quick and easy throws. But again, they need to be able to execute these things, which hopefully they worked on during the bye week.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of it's not like getting down to the studs, you know what I mean? But like it really is like the basics, the fundamentals of how the Packers offense should be operated is either in desperate need of repair or lifting up through just having Aaron Jones. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not to beat that dead horse, but we're gonna certainly beat it dry. But there are ways to get around that. The fact that I have this stat. Packers have 8 runs of 10 yards or more.
Yeah,
Jordan Love has half of them.
that's not good.
AJ Dillon has 2 of them. Keyshawn Nixon, a cornerback, has one of them. And Patrick Taylor, who is no longer on the team, has the other. So that tells me, one, trying to get other touches, other people involved, whether it's side to side action. Christian Watson, he's been hurt, so that's part of you can't really do that.
Right.
Jaden Reed, they have done different things with him, especially in the Falcons game. Basically, both of his touchdown throws were basically behind the line of scrimmage, and therefore could be considered runs.
Yeah.
there are things that they can do to kind of, keep the basic principles in mind, but have these gadget plays where they just manufacture run offense somehow.
Hmm.
And it's not just Jordan Love pocket breaking down, trying to make something happen, and he scrambles out wide and gets first down or something like that. That is maybe probably the best source of running offense this year, and that's pretty sad to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's where it just comes down to kind of sprucing up the things that they just haven't that hasn't been available to them, or that just they have looked elsewhere because they've gone, at least in the Raiders game, the most recent look that we saw of them is very just like, okay, we're gonna fight for every inch when it comes to running the ball, and then we're going deep shot, deep shot, deep
Right.
shot. It's like that
That just isn't.
mix, and it's not sustainable at all, and
No,
it
it's
was
not.
not sustainable in the first place.
Right. Yeah, I think like that's just the biggest thing. Like they had success earlier in the year on the short throws and over the middle stuff. They would take shots downfield, seldomly, and then either draw a penalty or make a complete pass, but the success was over the middle of the field in the medium depth target range. And I think that's what they need to get. That's what they need to get back to. I talked about it a couple times, like with Paul, and then at post game of the Raiders game. They just need to get back to what is working simplistically, and that comes from execution on the outside by receivers blocking on like bubble screens and short screens like that. But it also just comes in easy play design. You can't rework an entire playbook week to week, but where's Jaden Reed over the middle? Where's like Christian Watson on a post route over the middle? Where's any of these things over the middle that don't require a whole lot of touch and just require the ball to be placed where it is? Because we know that Jordan Love can put the ball on receivers in that short to medium depth target range. He has trouble down the field on go routes and things like that. We've seen it with Christian Watson and Luke Musgrave in games. But making his throws simpler, I think, is the most important part of this offense right now. Once you can get him going on those short intermediate throws, I think that opens up the playbook for a lot more success. One, in the run game, two, in the passing game, and for those deep shots downfield. Like, just wait to take those at more opportune times. I'm so fine with just trudging down the field. I don't need big plays so long as the offense is executing. And I think that's where they get messed up, is they try to get too cute, Matt LaFleur and the offense does, on first and second down, and then you're in third and long again. And
Yeah.
when it comes to that, that's where the deep ball comes in. It's a 3-and-out. Like, they just need to be more efficient and more, I guess it's more efficient is the easiest way to say it, in their play calling. It's as simple as that, frankly.
Yeah, I think it just has become really hard. It's
Yeah.
become really hard.
Which it's
And
going to be for a young team. Like, it is going to be, but it,
yeah,
it looks harder than it should, is I think what we're
yes.
both saying. We understand that the rookies of it all is a hard thing to grasp around, and that execution is going to vary from week to week, from defense to defense, but it's
Yeah.
it's grating to watch the offense right now.
Yes, 100%. And yeah, I they have this plum opportunity to do it against the worst defense, at least scoring wise, and across a lot of metrics. But I think for me, it's very similar to the conversation that we had prior to the Raiders game, but it's even more of a thing now because it's like you have no more excuse to not put up points against a team like this.
Nope.
If you put up 13 points against the Broncos, we're going to be talking about a loss post Sunday.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. I think that the Broncos have scored, I think, 10 points or I guess 13 points, my apologies, in every single game except against the Chiefs. They scored 8 against the Chiefs, which are the Super Bowl champions and division rival. And it was a Thursday. I think what matters of it all is, like you said, they just have to be efficient. If they can't do it against this team, which in our notes that you so gratuitously put together, Denver has the worst pass coverage grade according to PFF, of all the teams. Like, there's room to throw the ball against this team. And I guess my worry is that they become pass happy. Like,
Yeah.
I would like them to have success in the passing game. They need to be balanced. They just have to be. Because I think that's where, if you rely too much on Jordan Love of it all, then I don't think you're going to have success that way. I think they need the run game
No.
to support the passing game. As an old of cliche, we know that is.
Yeah. Establishing the run.
Got to establish the run. The old Mike McCarthyism. I think it's a lot. I think that's just a West Coast offense ism. I think it's like just the basis
I
of
think it. Oh,
basis
yeah,
of
yeah,
that offense.
yeah.
Some more stats. Um, Broncos have allowed 14 passing touchdowns this year, most in the NFL, and 1,600 passing yards, only second to the Jaguars. Like there's just room. They have 50 penalties for 460 yards. That's a coaching issue. Mark it up on Sean
Yeah,
Payton's
that's not
board.
good.
Mark it up on the Sean Payton bully board. Like, they're just not disciplined. And I think we might see the Packers' most efficient play again a few times this season, or this game. Just throw it downfield over DPI. With that being said, anything else you want to talk about, Jordan, before we get to players to watch and score predictions?
See, the one thing I want to talk about with the passing offense that I found very interesting with the Broncos.
Okay.
So the team that has the lowest average depth of target as a defense is the Packers. 6 yards.
They allow the lowest.
Allow the lowest. Yes.
Yeah,
Broncos are right ahead of them at 6.4.
got it.
They allow more yards after the catch than they have air yards. So the yards, yeah, there's the face that I wanted to see. This might be the Tyreek Hill effect of it all, or Jalen Waddle, or if, again, the Miami game loomed large in this, but they just give up big plays. They give up a lot of big plays. I think I have, let's see, yes, the Broncos have allowed 22 plays of 20 passing yards or more.
That's crazy. Which is the Packers kind of like bugaboo. They don't have a lot of big plays in general, and
Yeah.
most of them come through the air, but they don't have a lot.
Their rushing is also 21. They have allowed 21 plays of 10 rushing yards. So there's, again, this, you could cut this defense like a butter through knife.
Go ahead, say it again.
So you could cut this defense like a knife through butter. There we go. Butter knife. It's late.
It is late.
But yeah, I just think I see all these things and I'm just like, like I just how do you I don't know. I just my big thing. I just don't think this offense is going to really take advantage of this.
You don't think so?
No.
How come?
I hate to be obvious.
What are you hesitant about when it comes to, I guess, the offense not picking it up against a defense as bad?
I'm going to avoid the Aaron Jones answer because I think it's instrumental to this, but it also, there are ways that they can navigate it, which is I struggle to even have confidence saying that. I just think individually they have the weapons like a Christian Watson, or Jaden Reed has had nice moments. Romeo Dobbs is a great pass catcher. I just think if we're talking about making big plays with the plays that they, or with the weapons they have available, Aaron Jones is the crux of this. I could maybe think like, hey, Watson he's probably good for at least like, hey, a 15-yard end around. Or, deep balls have not been working so much this year, but let's air it out in mile high. I guess my confidence level in guys beyond Watson, Dobbs, and they're not the greatest confidence either. It's just there's just no or consistency that makes me think like, yeah, they have it in them to kind of burn this Broncos defense because when it comes to making big plays and making plays after the catch, it doesn't. We're not talking about like they're clearly not running go routes. They're not. They're running these little things that are quick throws, that kind of things that are capable with this Packers offense, and obviously a pass rush that has been diminished by getting rid of their two best edge rushers, at least in talent wise. So I don't know. That's where I'm just kind of at right now.
You don't have confidence in the players rather than like the play calling. Like you just need to see a consistent execution from the fringe players that makes it worth believing in, I suppose is the way to say it.
Honestly, you could probably if you talk to me if on one day I'll be like, yeah, I could maybe like after well, obviously after a win I'll be like, yeah, it's the players that could really execute these things. And it's the play calling. I think everybody's answer of just like where the offense is at, whether it's play calling, players, how the development of everything. It's so muddled into like this blob of like you just don't know. We don't know what is at root of all these issues, and that's where it's really frustrating for me in terms of looking at the first 5 games this year and just seeing like where can this improve because there's obvious ways that it can improve by just having their best offensive player in the lineup, but it, it's not so simple in a lot of other ways. I would say too.
Right. No, I definitely get that. There's just complications in the offense through and through.
Ever
So
Levine.
sure. Um, anything else, or should we do players to watch and score predictions?
Players to watch.
Okay. You can go first. I forget whose turn it is, but I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'm gonna go Broncos.
Okay, you're going Broncos first.
Marvin Mims Jr.
The rookie, right? Or no, second.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, second.
I believe he's a rookie.
Yeah, he's a rookie. He's a rookie. Everything runs together
Um,
nowadays.
Fifth most yards on passes that are attempted 20 yards or more. I'm basically just using the same formula that I did with Rashid Shaheed, in that he's a deep play threat. Packers, as you mentioned before, have been good on keeping big plays out of their at least statistical profile in terms of passing the ball. But all it takes is one throw, and Russell Wilson, for all his faults, can do damage that way. I just think they're asking a lot of like a Keyshawn Nixon. There's questions about obviously whether Eric Stokes is available. Jair having this back issue is not that great in terms of the secondary. So just having a very vertical threat that has had success getting down the field, scoring, all this stuff. I just think he could be a potential thorn in the Packers side.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good observation in general. Like the receiving group for this Broncos team is good. Like Jerry Jeudy, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Johnson is fine. He's a little bit on the fringe, but yeah, Marvin Mims Jr. has talent. That's why they drafted him to probably replace Jerry Jeudy if and when he leaves, kind of thing. And so, with all that being said, I think Marvin Mims is a good pick. He's having a good year thus far. I'm trying to pull up his stats quick to see 10 catches, 250 yards, and touchdown. Like through 6 games, that's pretty good. Like he's not target number one. That's Jeudy and Sutton, but that's pretty good for a rookie. That's 24 yards a catch. It's pretty good, frankly.
Yes, yes, I would say so.
I would say
I would love to have a guy like Marvin Mims on this roster.
Same. My pick is Pat Surtain, the second.
Are you certain?
I am certain. 23 tackles this year, a pick, and 6 pass deflections. He's their number one corner without a doubt. 2021 first round pick out of Alabama. Seeing how he matches up with Christian Watson and Romeo Dobbs, I think is going to be important because he's by no means this like amazing lockdown corner, but he's got talent and you can't make mistakes against him for better or for worse. Like I think however this game shakes out, if we're going to see success in the passing offense, I think you're going to have to throw at him at some point. But seeing Love not make the same decisions he did against the Raiders is going to be important. That was kind of our big takeaway with the decision from with Paul and our talk post game with the Raiders. It's just you can't make the same mistake twice. And I think this is a good opportunity to showcase that yes, I have grown and I won't make the same mistake twice throwing into poor coverages and things like that because he's good. And you just gotta stay away from when you can.
You want to do first Packer?
Sure. I think I'm going to go with Christian Watson. I think I'm just going to go that pair if they go against each other. I just need to see him have a big game. Like, if this defense is going to be Swiss cheese like it has been all year so far, then we kind of need a big game out of Christian Watson, being able to catch those deep balls if and when they throw it to him, and just being open over the middle. Like, I think a lot of the issue with the Raiders game is that one, the protection wasn't as good as you'd like to see it from the offensive line, and Max Crosby causing havoc as often as he did. But when he did have time, when he could stand in the pocket, there was nobody open for Jordan Love to throw to. And I think with with the injuries in that Raiders secondary, it's disappointing that nobody was getting open because they should have been. Like they have the talent to do that. I guess we thought they had the talent to get open against lesser players than the starters that were out and things like that. So yeah, seeing Christian Watson have a breakout game this season, like I'm not saying he needs to replicate Dallas again like last year, but I think he really does need to have a good game this year because he hasn't so far.
It's fair. I think we just need that game.
Yeah,
Whether it's not going to be a Dallas level, but we just need some kind of bring us the juice. Bring us some juice.
not the not the juice though.
No. Um, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna be a basic B. Jordan Love,
I mean, that's fair.
16 for 30, 182 yards, 3 interceptions. Quite easily the worst game he has ever played as a starter. There's nowhere to go but up with his play. Obviously, you mentioned the quote that he had, whether it was bye week or earlier this week, of it leaving a poor taste in his mouth and trying to redeem himself in some way. Well, you got a good opportunity against the worst defense in the league. How he makes those opportunities come to pass, that's going to be the big question in terms of who is going to be available to him, what kind of game plan that they draw up, because that was another big question or big thing with the Raiders game that thought they were going to have Aaron Jones. They did not, all that stuff. But I just ultimately just want to see Jordan Love make good throws, have enough time to make quick throws too, but with clean pockets, everything like that. Just get down to simplifying his game. Don't get pressured into making bad decisions because that really loomed large in that fourth quarter against the Raiders. Just getting back to basics.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, getting back to basics and just having a better game. That's all we're kind of asking for. Build upon your mistakes and see how you can develop as a quarterback. Like Paul said, I'm calling back to Paul the rest of the season. It's not about wins and losses, it's about progress. And this is a good chance to see progression from a bunch of the young players as well as hopefully maybe get a win. So, but that being said, score predictions, Jordan. You can go first because I know that I think you might have a different one than I will. I know it's a hard sell. It's a hard ask.
Really hard one. I'm gonna go Broncos 23, Packers 21.
Wow, you are nervous.
I am very nervous.
Like that, like, I understand, but all right, all right.
All right.
I'm not going to learn my lesson. I think I am now predicting wins almost entirely for the rest of the season because I am a homer. Packers 30. Yep, Packers 30. Broncos 27. I think they lose a close game again. Yep, that's what I'm going with. Packers 30, Broncos 27. That's it. I'm sticking to it. Anything else, Jordan? Or should we head out of here?
No, I say
Let's skedaddle.
let's get at it, but pray for everybody. Pray that we watch a good
Yeah.
Packers game.
I hope to join either the pod or the live. Keep in touch at gspn.info for all things GSPN to see if we end up going live after the game or not. So we
Yeah,
shall see.
good point.
But yeah, hopefully we come in with a happy mood and not a sad mood that Sunday. I think it's is it a 3:30 game?
It is a 3:30 game, so it's a little bit later.
Yeah.
Get to enjoy your morning. Get to watch some football before, and then the main course. It's feast or famine,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So, with all that being said, thank you guys for listening. GSPN.info for all of your Eurostep podcast network shows, like Eurostep, which released a couple of episodes since we last recorded with Paul, including Dame and Giannis playing for the first time together against the Lakers on Sunday. I think that was Sunday, yeah. And then mapping out the minutes for the Bucks rotation. Ty and Adam had a crossover pod between Eurostep and Win and Six that came out on Wednesday. So go check that out if you want to hear about the Damian Lillard of it all, which I'm sure you do as a Bucks fan. I'm sure all of you are Bucks fans who are listening to this. I would put good money on it. If you're not, thanks for listening to us. We appreciate it. Go check out Cruising for a Bruising. Adam and Andrew released a new episode today. That is Thursday, talking about the bad news that came out of Brandon Woodruff's camp, as well as Craig Counsell's uncertainty and just everything Brewers as of late. So Cruising for a Bruising, go check it out. They're in their off season now, so go give them some love. Listen to some Brewers as you need something to listen to, like washing the dishes or cleaning the house. They're just good to have on. A lot of insightful stuff. As well, Adam and Andrew still host Make Time for This, a wonderful pod. Their most recent pod, again, that came out today, talks about the gold standard of of concert films as Stop Making Sense returns to big screens. Jordan and I went to Stop Making Sense together.
We did. People were dancing through the aisles. That is a true story.
That is a true story. They were running up and down the aisles in like a really exaggerated conga line.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like,
It was something.
I think we might have been the youngest people in the audience.
I did see little children, but that
Yeah, their grandparents brought them.
they did. Yeah, they didn't have agency. They didn't have agency in that decision.
Exactly. I think we might have been the youngest people willing to go. But
Willingly going.
yeah, go check out the episode. Andrew leaked his choices with me. You got to stop. Leaked his choices with me, and there's a couple there that I want to check out. So go listen to that episode and go watch Stop Making Sense if you can. It was really good. That's a shameless plug, but it was really good.
First time seeing it for both of us.
Yeah.
And heard these songs for millions of years.
Millions of years, Jordan.
31 years.
Jordan is literally and figuratively and apparently literally a dinosaur.
But seeing them all together and playing it live it just elevated these songs even further for me, and I haven't been able to stop listening to them.
Yeah, same. So, all that being said, thank you all for listening. Before we head out, I had to give one congratulatory sayings to my lovely co-host, Jordan Chesky. Got married this past weekend. Had a lovely, lovely wedding. Look at him showing off the new ring. It's so great. So, congrats, buddy. Wonderful wedding. You're welcome. All right, everybody. We're headed out of here. We will see you, or I guess talk to you, on Sunday or Monday, depending on where you check us out. So be sure to tune in. Follow me at Numac and Jordan on Twitter. Follow Jordan at Jordan Tusk on Twitter. Please, I am begging. this is me begging everybody, go follow our Instagram and TikTok accounts. We are putting out social media videos with clips from the show, which, again, if you're listening to the show, that's fine. You heard it already. But we appreciate any sort of likes, shares, comments, any of that stuff on those accounts as we continue to grow the pod and the network in general. The ats for both TikTok and Instagram are at WatchGSPN. I'm putting out clips of Talk of the Tundra stuff. I know Ty is doing stuff for Eurostep and things like that. So go over there, help us get into that algorithm, drop us a like. It doesn't take all but 2 taps of your thumb. That's all I'm asking. So that is my lowly plea this week, is just go follow the account. We'd appreciate it. All right, everybody. That is it. I'm for sure now. We are leaving. Thank you again for listening. And Jordan, thank you.
Thank you.